Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is At the Helm Sports. I'm your host, Derek Helm. Thank you for joining me for episode 132. Please be sure to follow and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave those 5-star reviews. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that like button down in the comment section. Let me know, who are you playing on Draftkings this week in the $6,000 range? Because I've only got a couple guys so far that I've got starred, but interested to see where everybody's going. This week, we will be diving into the Memorial, but quickly we can recap the RBC Canadian Open. So, didn't really watch much on Sunday. I was following what was happening, but basically it was a nice day out, had a little bit of family over, took the kids in the pool, so was constantly checking the phone, but didn't actually get to watch. But good for Bobby Mack. I mean, great story with his father on the bag. I mean, it was a little bit weird, him complaining about the drones and thinking that everybody was out to get him, but every time he faced some resiliency and looked like he was going to give some shots back, he bounced back. So I do think it was a pretty impressive performance. I do think that the whole drone thing and him talking about if he was American, it wouldn't have been the same case. I think part of that was just him deflecting because he was so nervous about being in the lead. So I think it was just maybe taking the nerves off and placing them on an exterior thing that it was out of his control, which maybe made him a little bit more in control of his golf game, if that makes any sense. But from a psychological standpoint, that's really what I think it was. But overall, it just made him come across as kind of a dick. But good for him regardless. Obviously I didn't have any Bobby Mack, really wasn't rooting for the guy, but it was a great tournament overall. Was pretty compelling down the stretch. I was watching on the Fantasy National leaderboard app and just following closely, and it was back and forth and pretty interesting. And every time I did actually turn it on to look, it was they showed Sam Burns, which was great because I had the outright on him. He got somewhat close, but just missed a ton of putts every single time I turned it on. It literally just went to Sam Burns missing a putt. So the betting woes continue. It's been a really, really rough year, but hopefully we can turn it around here. It's just I have been absolutely awful. Got totally wiped out last week, but I have a good feeling about the Memorial. Basically, have had a lot of success here in the past, and hopefully we can continue that. So it is the Memorial 2024 edition, Jack's tournament. It's the last of the player-hosted signature events. So this will be the last one that does have a little bit of a cut. We have 72 golfers in the field, cutting down to 50 with anyone within 10 strokes of that 50. So, or 10 strokes of the lead. So it's kind of a cut, I guess you could say. Really not too many guys probably missing here. So, but at least we get a cut, and it's better than the other tournaments. But we're played at Muirfield Village, as always, 7,540 yard, par 72 with fast undulating bent grass greens. There are 4 par 3s, 4 par 5s, and 10 par 4s. 7 of the 10 par 4s are from 450 to 500 yards. 3 par 5s are 550 to 600, with another one just under 550 yards. They are the easiest holes on the course. You're definitely going to want to score well on those holes. Really, it's going to be interesting to see on some of those longer ones whether guys decide to go for it or not. And maybe if you miss, you're in a greenside bunker, which there are a good amount of bunkers here, 68 of them, and they are very penal, whether it's in the fairway or the greenside bunkers. They're definitely somewhere where you do not want to be. And if you are in them, you're going to need some sand saves here. So that's just something to keep in mind. And from a strategy standpoint, it's going to be interesting to see what some of these guys do. 3 of the par 3s are over 200 yards. The other one, not so much. I think it's 163 yards. So really, you just want to tread water on the par 3s, do some scoring on the par 5s, and make what you can of those par 4s. But accuracy is going to matter quite a bit here. The fairways are rather large, and hitting fairways is a little bit above tour average at 68%. But if you do miss the fairway, this rough is very, very penal. So you're going to have long approach shots, regardless of whether you're in the fairway or not. And if you're in this rough, it could be a serious, serious test for some of these guys. So definitely living in the fairway is going to matter quite a bit. So I am looking for guys that can hit fairways, but if you do have a little bit of length, maybe you can offset it a little bit. But I really wouldn't want too many guys that are hitting too many drives that go outside of the fairway here. Some guys may choose to hit driver on every hole, but generally it's probably not the best strategy. Average drive comes in below tour average at about 281 yards. So as I said, if you're looking to hit accuracy over distance, a lot of guys probably not going driver off the tee. Mid to long irons make up 45% of all approach shots. So 45% of them coming from 150 to 200 yards, 23% of those 150 to 175, another 22% from 175 to 200. So definitely got to be dialed in with those ranges, with nearly half of the shots coming from there. And obviously, if you're hitting out of the rough, you're probably going to be missing greens in regulation here, because these greens are a little bit on the smaller side, and GIR percentage only comes in at about 61%. So greens in regulation, not really a given. If you're missing these greens, you're going to have to deal with some of these bunkers. There's a lot of greenside bunkers that are going to cause a lot of trouble. If you're not in the bunkers, really not the end of the world. Chipping out of the rough here is a little bit easier than what we see on some courses with some of the tight lies. So definitely going to want some guys that have a little bit of around the green, but definitely want sand saves. Really looking for guys that are accurate off the tee and good with those mid to long irons. Basically, it's going to be who's hitting those approach shots. It's going to be a second shot, and basically who can make enough putts to save par, but then also capitalize on some scoring opportunities. So that's really what we're looking at as far as the course goes. I do like quite a bit of the field here. I mean, obviously it's a big boy tournament, so we have all the guys here. It starts with Scotty at the top on DraftKings, 12,500. Really, we don't have the 5K range, so I think that's why they have him in the 12,500 range. I've made some Scotty lineups, and I'm definitely going to play him. I expect him probably to be at least somewhere around 30%. We have seen him push 40%, so that is a possibility. I do like in this stronger field, though, kind of going a little bit more balanced. I just think that you can fit some better caliber golfers in there. So I will play Scotty. I will have Scotty lineups, but probably going to try and mix in some of these other guys here. As of now, I'm not playing Rory. Just I'm going to go to Scotty. So can't play all these guys up here. And I kind of do want to go Xander. Just, if it's not for Scotty, Xander's probably one of the best golfers this year. So I do like him. He brings some safety along with some upside. So 10,900, I think, is a good price for him. I like Hovland. I've actually made an outright on Hovland at 18 to 1. Now, the around the green has come back around a little bit recently. And obviously, we've seen some flashes of Hovland of last year. Last year, he won here. So there's a lot to like with him. If his ownership does get out of control, I'm fine skipping over him and just riding with the outright. But as of now, he is in the player pool. And I also love Colin Morikawa. I definitely think that he will be popular. Just that price range, right under 10K, 9,800, I think is good price for him. He's been incredible off the tee. It's a guy that's going to live in the fairway. He has improved so much just around the green and putting. His short game has been immaculate recently here. We've seen him hitting the irons a little bit better recently, which they went away for a while, but he seems to be peaking right now. And at 9,800, I think it's a great price for him. I will play a ton of him. I have made an outright on Morikawa at 21 to 1. Used a boost for that, and I absolutely love that number for him here. I don't trust Ludwig. Just the knee brace is a serious concern. He didn't look right last time we saw him. He's saying it's just maintenance, but I don't know. I mean, if he comes in really, really low owned, it's something to consider. But another guy that could come in low owned is Patrick Cantlay, 9,400. Obviously, has won here twice. One of those is with an asterisk because really John Rahm should have won that year. But it's a place where he plays well, and he's been playing terribly this year, but has been playing well at the places where he generally does play well. So, if this is a course where he's comfortable, maybe he can turn it around. Right now, I don't think I can get there, but if he's coming in somewhere like 6% ownership, I would definitely consider it. But I do like Justin Thomas, 9,200, striking the ball very well again, 10th on approach over the last 24 rounds, 14th in bogey avoidance. He's good on the par fives. So we know he has a little bit of an around the green game and has played well at Muirfield Village. So I'm good going to Justin Thomas. Also, Hideki, kind of want to see what his ownership gets to, but hasn't really been as good as what we saw earlier in the year, but still rates out very well statistically. It's a course where he showed up before. So 9,000 flat for him, I think is a good price. He's first around the green. So, even if he's missing greens here, it plays in his favor. One thing I did forget to mention when we were talking over the course is the weather. It's going to be very, very windy, it looks like, at least Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Probably sustained 15-mile-an-hour winds, possibly up to 35. So these guys are probably going to be missing some greens and maybe even some fairways. So I'm going to take that into account on my builds. I'm going to be playing some builds where it plays extremely difficult here. I mean, we saw it last year. I think Hovland won it at 7 under. The year that Rahm won, it was pretty difficult. So we could be seeing somewhere in that range and not so much the minus 15 range, but it is the weather. It can change, obviously. So definitely something to keep an eye on there. But as of right now, it does look like we're going to be dealing with quite a bit of wind. Next, we have Wyndham Clark and Sahith Theegala. These guys, I've been playing a lot of this year, especially Sahith. I've basically played him everywhere, every week, made a lot of bets on him. And just the past couple times out, he just does not look right. I mean, has been really good with the short game, but the putter has failed him. That the around the green game has not looked right. So I don't know if just something is broken with him. Now, he has been rather boom bust in the past, so maybe he can just turn it around and come back here. So I don't think I can get there on him right now. And similar with Wyndham Clark, we know he can turn it on. Obviously, next tournament is the US Open, and we know what he did there, but I do think it's a good course for him. I don't think I'm gonna get there. Now, if these two guys are like half the ownership of Hideki, then maybe I move away from Hideki and decide on one of those two guys. But as of right now, I'm not going to get there. Max Homa, 8,700. I do like him quite a bit. Now, we want to play Max at Max Homa courses, and I definitely think that this qualifies. He tends to show up at the bigger events and harder courses, and this definitely qualifies for that. Last two times he's played Muirfield Village, 5th and 6th place. So really wasn't playing very well in 2021 when he finished 6th. He came in here with 2 straight missed cuts. So we could see him not in the greatest of form and just coming out here and still playing well. He had a rough time at the Charles Schwab. He missed a cut. Previously 35th at the PGA Championship. So not great the last couple times out, but he did gain 3.3 strokes on approach at the PGA Championship. So do like that. And he does have 2 top 10 finishes in his last 5 tournaments. So I like Homa quite a bit. I think it's a course that he's comfortable with, and when that's the case, I'm going to back Homa. So I've made an outright on him at 40-1 with a top 6 each way, and I like Homa quite a bit. He will be in quite a bit of my lineups. If you want to get crazy, you could play Jordan Spieth. He's probably going to be low owned and shows up randomly from time to time, but he has just been terrible this year. So I don't think I can get there. Next two guys, ownership plays for me. I want to see where they're going to get to. I'm guessing probably somewhere around 15%. And if that's the case, I'm fine with it. But Corey Connors, Ben Hyun-an, just I like where their games are at. I like how their games fit here. On has played well at Muirfield before. Corey Connors, meh, he's played okay, but just how he's striking the ball recently, I absolutely love it. And I do think I'm going to play him. Now, the only concern that I have is if the winds are picking up here, these guys aren't really great around the greens. So maybe I'll build in some sets and they'll be in some of my lineups where I'm going more so ball strikers and maybe some easier conditions. But as of right now, I do like them quite a bit. I'm going right back to Alex Noren, 8,100, I think is a great price for him. The guy has been incredibly consistent, obviously, outside of last week. Statistically, still rates out very, very well. He's great on approach, great with the bogey avoidance, good with sand saves, good around the green. So He's got a lot of what I like. I might actually look at making a placement wager on him as well. But 8,100, I think, is a good price for him. Similarly, I think you can make a very similar case for Russell Henley here. Seventh on approach over the last 24 rounds, 12th in bogey avoidance, seventh in fairways gained, third in sand saves, 14th around the green. So I think that this plays to his strengths rather well also. And I like this range quite a bit. I'm going to go to Sung Jae. He's playing much better golf than what we saw earlier in the year. He's great off the tee, good at bogey avoidance. He can find the fairway. He actually has a 10th place finish. I believe it was 2022 here. So he's played well at the Memorial before, been playing good golf lately. So I'm going to go there. Next with Finau and Lowry, I don't know if I want to go there just with how terrible they've been putting. It worries me a little bit. Now, here you're probably not going to have to make a ton of putts and a ton of birdies, but you are probably going to have to save par here. So if it's getting really, really windy and they're missing a lot of greens, it does concern me a little bit, but I may end up getting there on one of them. Probably not going to be able to play both of them. As we get down here a little further, probably a little bit more spotty. I like Siwoo Kim, have heard his name brought up quite a bit here. He's played well at the Memorial before, but striking the ball so incredibly well. Great around the green. He finds a lot of fairways. So, it's a common theme. These are the type of guys that I'm looking for, and Siwoo definitely fits the mold this week. 7,700, I think, is a great price for him. Next, same price, 7,700. Keegan Bradley, been playing great golf lately. Last three tournaments, he's got a 21st, 18th, and a second. Gained strokes on approach in 6 of his last 7 appearances. Also been driving the ball very well recently. He gained 5.7 strokes off the tee at the Charles Schwab, 6.6 at the PGA Championship. So, like a lot of what he's been doing here, he's had some mixed results at the Memorial in the past, finished 30th and 37th the last 2 times out here. So, not great, but he has finished 8th on 2 separate occasions. He's only failed to gain strokes off the tee once at the Memorial. So 13 appearances and he's gained strokes on every single appearance except for one. That's pretty impressive. Also, he's putt well on these greens, gained 5.4 strokes and 3.4 strokes the last 2 times, and bentgrass is by far his best surface. So I do like Keegan Bradley quite a bit, and I have made an outright on him at 50-1 with the top 6 each way. Sepp Straka is a guy that seems to be getting a lot of steam here. I want to see what his ownership comes in at, but been playing really good golf lately, and I do think that he could show up here. Worries me a little bit, similar to Noren last week. It just makes too much sense, and everybody's on it. So usually that doesn't work out very well, but as I said, it just makes too much sense. So I'm definitely going to be going with Straka. I like Billy Horschel as well. Obviously, already has a win at the Memorial, has a win this year. Been playing pretty good golf here. If it's going to be tough conditions, he's good at the bogey avoidance. He can take advantage of the par fives. He's good around the green. So I do like Horschel quite a bit. Tom Hoagie is someone I'm considering just because of the ball striking. But if it is going to be very, very windy, I just worry a little bit about his short game. The putter can show up from time to time, but sometimes he just loses it. So don't really know if I want to get there. Bezaden, who seems to be like a good play here, but I just never play him at all. So probably not going to get there with him. I'm willing to go back to Jaeger. Didn't look too good his last time out, but tends to show up in these bigger events. So 7,100, I think, is a good price for him. I like Lucas Glover at 7,000. Great with the ball striking. And if it does get windy and he's missing greens here, he's 7th around the green over the last 24 rounds. So I do like Glover. Akshay Bhatia obviously is mandatory for me. So gonna have to get there on him. Hasn't been playing as well lately, been playing a ton of golf, but past couple times out, really not great. Another guy that strikes the ball very well, 4th on approach over the last 24 rounds. But again, if we're missing greens around here, it can get a little sketchy. He's 60th in the field over the last 24 rounds around the green in a field of only 72 guys. That's not great. So, as I said before, maybe in my sets where I'm building strictly with ball strikers, he'll get in there. I do like Justin Rose, 6,900 last time he came out. He showed up. So do like him. Victor Perez actually impressed me last week. I think that I'm going to go to him now. Hopefully, it wasn't just a flash in the pan, but 6,800 I do think is a pretty good price for him here. Lee Hodges as well, just been good on approach lately. 6,500. He's a guy that strikes the ball well. I think he can live in the fairway and take advantage of those irons, and he's actually pretty good out of the sand as well. So 6,500 I think is a good price for him. And then I'm willing to go back to Seamus Power. I played way too much of him last week, but I think it's a place that suits him well. And then down here, there's really not a lot that I like. So hence why I'm gonna play Scotty, but I might even be a little bit underweight the field, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. But there's just not a ton of guys that I like this week in this price range that make Scotty lineups work. So there's enough here that I can play Scotty, but I'll probably have to find a couple more. So definitely check the newsletter for who else I'm deciding on down here. But that's pretty much what I'm looking at for this week for the Memorial. As I said, check out the newsletter, the Helm Sports on Substack, or sign up for it down in the description. Get it sent right to your email. Check thehelmsports.com. I will have all my wagers up there. And to recap the wagers so far on the week, I have, if I can pull it up, I guess we'll just go off of memory because this is not working. But we have Victor Hovland at 18 to 1. I have Colin Morikawa. I used the boost on him at 21 to 1. Max Homa, 40 to 1 with the top six each way. And Keegan Bradley at 50 to 1 with a top six each way. Guess that really wasn't that hard to remember. Only four of them. But that's basically what I'm looking at for this week. And probably going to add some placements, maybe some tournament matchups. I'm staying away from first round leader this week. I just have been lighting money on fire with that. And it's fun, but they really are pointless bets. But that's basically what I'm looking at for this week. So check thehelmsports.com, the My Bets tab. I will have everything in there that you need. But that's going to do it for this week. As always, thank you for listening. I am your host, Derek Helm. And remember,
Just have fun out there.